You send a text to someone you care about. Then you watch the little screen. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 20 minutes of silence. And here's the strange part. Depending on who you are, that exact same silence triggers a completely different person inside you. Maybe your chest tightens. You reread your message, convinced you said something wrong. You start spiraling times. Are they mad? Are they leaving? What did I do times? And you have to physically stop yourself from sending a second text. Or maybe the opposite. You feel a wall go up. A cool little voice says times whatever. I didn't care that much anyway. You put the phone down, almost relieved to pull away. Same silence. Two opposite reactions. And neither one is really about the text. Both are echoes of something that was wired into you long before you ever owned a phone, back when you were small, powerless, and completely dependent on someone else to survive. Today, we're going to find out exactly what got wired in and why it's still running your relationships now. Here's the reframe that changes everything, and almost no one tells you this part. The way you behave in relationships isn't a personality quirk. It isn't you being too clingy or too cold or bad at love. It's a time survival strategy, times one you developed as a baby, when your very life depended on keeping a caregiver close. Think about what it means to be an infant. You cannot feed yourself, protect yourself, or soothe yourself. If the giant people around you stop paying attention, you could literally die. So evolution gave you one job above all others: keep your caregiver near. And your infant brain was watching, constantly, running one silent experiment: times when I need them. Are they there? The answer you got, over thousands of tiny moments, taught you a strategy for getting your needs met. And that strategy calcified into a blueprint. Psychologists call it your attachment style, that you're still following in every close relationship you have today. You built it to survive childhood. The problem is, you're still using it as an adult. This isn't pop psychology. It comes from decades of rigorous research. In the mid-20th century, a psychologist named John Bowlby proposed that these early bonds shape us for life. Then his colleague, Mary Ainsworth, found a way to actually times it. She designed an experiment called the strange situation. She'd bring a baby and their mother into a room, and over about 20 minutes, the mother would leave briefly and then return, a few times over. Ainsworth wasn't really watching the separation. She was watching the times reunion times, because how a baby responded when their caregiver came back revealed the entire strategy they'd built. And what she found was that babies sorted into distinct patterns, not random, consistent, predictable strategies, each one a logical response to how their needs had been treated. Those patterns are the attachment styles. And once you understand where each one comes from, you'll probably recognize yourself and everyone you've ever dated. Let's start with the lucky ones. In Ainsworth's studies, this was actually the majority, around 65 to 70%. The secure child had a caregiver who was, most of the time, reliably there. When the child cried, someone came. Not perfectly, no parent is perfect, but times consistently enough times that the child learned a foundational belief: when I need people, they show up. I am worth showing up for. In the experiment, these babies would get upset when their mother left, but when she came back, they were easily comforted and quickly went back to happily playing. No drama, no wall, just, "You're back, I'm okay, let's continue." As adults, this is the person who can be close without panicking and independent without shutting down. They can say, "That hurt my feelings," without it becoming a war. They trust that people can leave the room and still love them. They didn't earn this by being stronger. They just got lucky enough to learn, early, that connection is safe. Now the first insecure strategy, about 15%. The anxious child had a caregiver who was times inconsistent, sometimes warm and attentive, sometimes distracted, distant, or overwhelmed. And crucially, the child couldn't predict which they'd get. Imagine needing something to survive and never knowing if the machine will give it to you. What do? You escalate. You cry louder, cling harder, protest bigger, because sometimes that's what it took to break through and get the attention you needed. The strategy became, if I make my need impossible to ignore, maybe I'll get it. In the experiment, these babies were distraught when the mother left, and when she returned, they were almost impossible to soothe. They'd reach for her and push her away at the same time, still crying, unable to settle, angry that she left, terrified she'd do it again. As an adult, this is the person from our opening, the one who spirals at 20 minutes of silence. They crave closeness, but live in fear of losing it, reading every pause as abandonment. It's not that they're needy. It's that, a long time ago, love felt unreliable, so their system learned to sound the alarm at the first hint of distance. The opposite strategy. Also around 15%. The avoidant child had a caregiver who was consistently times unavailable times, emotionally distant, dismissive of the child's feelings, maybe uncomfortable with tears or need. When this child reached out for comfort, they were met with rejection or coldness or a message that said, "Don't be so emotional, handle it yourself." So this child learned something heartbreaking for a baby to learn. Reaching out doesn't work. Needing people just gets me hurt. So I'll stop needing them. They didn't stop times feeling, times the need. The research is clear, their little bodies were still stressed. They just learned to hide it, bury it, and become self-sufficient way too early. In the experiment, these babies looked like the calmest of all. When the mother left, they showed no distress. When she returned, they ignored her, kept playing, acted like they didn't care. But their heart rates told the truth inside. They were just as upset. They had simply learned that showing it was pointless. As an adult, this is the person who pulls back the moment things get close, who values independence above all, who feels a wall go up when someone gets too near. It's not that they don't feel. It's that, long ago, they learned it was safer to never let anyone see they needed anything at all. And the rarest, most painful pattern, about 10% identified later by researchers Main and Solomon. The other three strategies, however painful, are at least times organized, times their coherent solutions to a problem. But this child faced an impossible situation. Their caregiver wasn't just unreliable or distant. Their caregiver was the times, source of the fear itself, frightening, chaotic, sometimes the very person causing the pain. This creates a devastating paradox for a baby. Every instinct says times run to your caregiver for safety, but the caregiver is the danger. So the one person you're wired to run times toward times is the one you need to run times from. There's no strategy that works. The system breaks. In the experiment, these babies did contradictory, disoriented things, approaching their mother while looking away, freezing, seeming dazed. As adults, this often becomes a painful push-pull, desperately wanting closeness and terrified of it at the same time, craving love and sabotaging it when it arrives because deep down, love and fear got wired together. Now, if you just recognized yourself in one of the insecure styles, here's the part you need to hear, because it's the most important thing in this whole video. Your attachment style is not a diagnosis. It's not a cage. It is not who you times are times, it's what you times learned. And here is the hopeful truth buried in all this science. What was learned can be relearned. Psychologists have a term for this: earned secure attachment. It means someone who started out anxious, or avoidant, or disorganized, and times became times secure over time. It happens through self-awareness. Just understanding your pattern, like you're doing right now, is the first crack of light. It happens through relationships with secure people who gently prove your old blueprint wrong. It happens, for many, through therapy. Your early experiences dealt you a starting hand. They did not deal you the whole game. The wiring feels permanent because it's old and deep. But the brain that learned to protect you at age 2 is not required to keep running your life at 30. You can update the map. So go back to that moment. You, staring at a silent phone, feeling that old familiar reaction rise up in you, the spiral, or the wall. For your whole life, that reaction has felt like times you, just your personality, just how you are. But now you can see it for what it really is. A small child, long ago, who found the best possible way to hold on to the people they needed. That reaction kept you safe once. It was a gift from a younger you who was just trying to survive. You don't have to be angry at it. You can actually thank it, and then, gently, let it know that the emergency is over, that you're not that powerless child anymore, that you can choose, now, to reach for people differently. The strategy that once kept you alive doesn't have to be the one that runs the rest of your life. You were shaped by how you were loved, but you are not finished being shaped, and a lot of that is finally in your own hands.